Hey everyone, it's me, Ethan. It's another first Friday of the month, and hope everybody is doing well. I know there are some of you with the Monopoly Project that are not happy with the state of things and where things are now, and hopefully I can address some of these concerns during this AMA. I'm going solo, it looks like, again. Um, we tried playing around with different times and different days and things like that, and it didn't really seem to help the turnout. So I'm just going to go back to the default of things, which is 8 o'clock on the first Friday of the month. And hopefully people will get on board with it or they won't. It really doesn't matter. I've got my obligation to you guys to do this, so I'm going to continue to do things as originally planned. And I'd like to kind of touch base with some things about the project. So many things have changed since its inception. When Monopoly was first, came as an inspiration or an idea, it was, something between myself and my good friend Sakib. And there was no way at that time that I could predict that Sakib would retire and he would leave working with me. And there were so many things that I couldn't predict. The world is full of things that we can't control. And, even if we look more recently, we look at the President of the United States is just completely trashing the economy, not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy. This will have ramifications that I think are going to be historic. I think it may take decades to recover if he doesn't stop doing what he's doing. And that's the thing about life is there's so many things that are beyond our control. When this project first started in its inception, power upgrades were relatively cheap, fast, and easy in the UAE. And about a year in, that changed, and we started getting fines, and the agricultural department started coming in and, trying to make a mess of things. And fortunately, that's all gone. That's all faded away. That's in the past, and I knew it would. I knew that it wouldn't last, that they wouldn't be able to keep, pressuring people and throwing fines at people. I knew that wouldn't last. And even the power company itself, originally we did business with AADC. That power company has been sold. It's now TAQA, which is a completely different company. So many things have changed and are changing in our everyday lives. From the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep, it can be a completely different outlook on what the future might be for you and your family. And that is the nature of life, folks. And we can complain about it and we can get upset about it, or we can learn to change and adapt. And in my years of wisdom, I had my 50th birthday and I'm 50 years old now. It's the ones who change and adapt. Those are the ones that survive. Those are the ones that will survive the change and learn to thrive in the change. And I understand, a lot of you guys were thinking, this is going to be quick, easy money. I buy this NFT. The mining's just going to go on and on and on, and I'm going to continue to generate revenue streams. And I'm going to get a big payday out of this. And unfortunately, life just didn't happen that way. It didn't work out that way. And we've tried to change and adapt with the situation. When Sakib left, I started reaching out and trying to find new partners, new people that I could work with. Unfortunately, a lot of those fell through, but eventually I grinded it out. And my sister came here and she joined, with me. And I found Ahmad through my sister, who was a great foreman and a great worker, and they went out and they grinded it out. And our initial issue was we didn't have any power to plug into. And I thought that I might be able to pigtail the Monopoly project off some other things that I had cooking. Unfortunately, it just didn't pan out that way, and that's life. And I let you guys know about all these things. And I can understand that some of you may feel that I'm not being transparent, or I'm not telling you guys all the facts, but those are the facts. That is the transparency. When we initially started this project, power upgrades were fast, cheap, and easy. Those became very difficult. They became hard. And then the restrictions with the Abu Dhabi Agricultural Department came in, and they forbid mining with agricultural plots of land. And many of the landowners that I had agreements with, they were okay with it as long as I paid the fees or whatever fines came their way. They were okay with it, but some weren't. And it just so happened to be luck of the draw that the ones that were unhappy with continuing that activity on their land were the ones that we were doing the Monopoly project with. And like I said, these things, they're beyond my control. You know, now that the power company has changed hands, the agricultural department has become more relaxed. I'm hearing that power upgrades are happening again in the agricultural areas, and things are in a constant state of change. And that's life. Nothing stays forever. Now, obviously, I'd wish that the Monopoly project, you know, maybe had 1 year or 2 years, or, you know, the complete bull run of mining under its belt. It just didn't happen that way, guys. And despite these challenges, I changed and I adapted to the situation. I got new people to come in and work with me when the old people had to leave. And this is just the nature of how things happen. And we grinded and we found power. We found power not only for the Monopoly project, but for existing clients that were in queue that bought megawatts of energy. And we built out their facilities. They're mining now. You know, things are changing. You have to wait it out. You have to ride it out. And that's one of the things about change, you know, is it's going to happen whether we like it or we don't like it. What we have to do is we have to be patient. We have to be calm. We have to ride it out, and we have to look for what is our next opportunity. And then we have to change and adapt to that. And I've done that for you guys. I'm sorry if you haven't seen that, if you haven't realized that, but I've found the replacements for Saqib. Well, nobody can replace Saqib, but I've found suitable people to keep moving forward, to keep progress moving forward. And they worked hard, guys. They went out and they knocked on doors. How many of you guys went out? First of all, let's just get this really clear. This is a community project, right? I am not a dictator. I am just a facilitator of the community, right? And I didn't see anybody in the community go out and pound sand like my sister and Ahmad did. They went out and knocked on strangers' doors. They made friends with people. And if they didn't have the power, they asked for a referral and a recommendation. And I went through and I trained them and I taught them how to do all this. And I don't see any of you stepping to the plate to do any of that. So before you criticize me or my sister or Ahmad, take a step back and realize the situation. Realize what's happened. And then ask yourself, how much effort have you put into this? Sure, you bought an NFT, but have you come over here? Have you tried to make the connections? Have you built the relationships? Have you found the power? Because that's what I did. And I did this not just for Monopoly. I did this because I have other clients as well. And that's part of my business plan to further my business operations. Okay, we've got somebody coming in. Hey, welcome.
Hey, Ethan. How are you?
Good. I was just going on a big rant about just the nature of life and how it changes, and that we have to, you know, be malleable, and we have to adjust, and we have to change, and we have to adapt to the situation. And I was kind of going over some of these people's, I was addressing their criticisms about the state of the project. And, you know, I just want everybody to know I'm passionate about mining. It is my love in life. It is what I still do from morning until night when I go to sleep, is I'm thinking about opportunities and ways to make that happen. And we've gone out, we've done the hard work, we've pounded the sand, and we've grinded, and we've found power, right? But the issue is that I can't pigtail off of existing projects. There's no existing projects that I have. Now, if it happens tomorrow and I get a project that has spare power, sure thing. I'll plug you guys in. All right. But as it sits right now, if Minopoly wants to continue the mining phase, we're going to need to figure out, not just me, not just put it on my shoulders, because it needs to be a group effort. It can't all just depend on me. Right? But we all need to work together to figure out a way to generate the revenues to build out a new mining building, a new infrastructure, so we can all plug in. Now, we can do that by opening the project up again and getting new people on board and new money in, and just have Monopoly pigtail off of that. Or we can do a private raise, between some of the bigger players, the bigger holders, and we can do something where we adjust where they get more of the revenue streams because they're paying this build out. There's lots of things we can do, but it's got to be something that we as a community come up with. It can't just all be put onto my shoulders. Now, right now, if we want to build out, let me just do the rough math. If we want to build out a new air-cooled facility, we're looking at roughly, the minimum I could do it is probably about $35,000 US. So, well, and that would not include the rent. So we would have to figure in whatever the rent is on that. But that's what it would cost me to build a new infrastructure from scratch. Now, obviously I have some things in place. I have PDUs that are in the warehouse. I have shelving that's in the warehouse. I have even spare wiring now. That we can use. So there's some things that I can do to cut costs, but ballpark, we need to figure out a way we can come up with $35,000. And again, we can do this by opening the project up and kind of doing like a refresh or a renewal, like renew all our gear and do it that way, or we can do it via private raise. But this needs to be something that we all need to work on together. As I said, I am not an emperor. I'm not a dictator. I'm not the ruler of Monopoly. I'm a facilitator. And I've done everything that I possibly can to facilitate this project. And we know it works. Look at Cobra X. They're up and running strong. They've been running strong since the day they turned on. We know it can work. We just had life. We've had unexpected things in life happen to us. Nobody expected that the president would trash the economy that it is right now. This is the way life happens, right? You drive your car one day and somebody slams into you. The next day you're in the hospital. Things like this happen. This is how life works. And we need to rise above that and figure out a solution. Instead of pointing fingers, instead of saying that I've ghosted, or, we can be critical all day, and I'll take that. Right? But until I see you guys coming over here and putting in the time and the effort and the grind like I have, I really don't think you've got strong legs to stand on. I really think your energy would be better focused on finding solutions instead of complaints. What are your thoughts? Is your mic muted, maybe? I think your mic is muted. Vlad's, yeah.
Yeah. So from my end, unfortunately, I don't have any spare capital. I'm also a very small investor compared to the rest. So from my take, I'm actually okay to sell the miners and say that was unfortunate. I'm in Cobra X, and I guess, as you say, that's how life goes. And I don't have the capital at the moment to do anything about it.
I totally get it. Vlad. And, that's the thing is, by community decision, we unplugged. And I've had an opportunity to refurbish the miners, so they're all working like a top now. They're, prime form to be sold. Unfortunately, Bitcoin is, honestly, guys, all predictions are out the window. With the madness that's going on with the current leadership in the United States, I don't think it's possible. I think it's unprecedented what's happening right now, not just to the American economy, but the global economy. I will say this, Bitcoin was founded and forged in these times. If we look at the original release, it was, right in the epitome of the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. And it was designed by its very nature to kind of counteract these colossal financial system failures that we're starting to see, and we're going to see more. Like we haven't even hit the storm yet. We're watching the storm come from the horizon, but it has not hit us yet. And even if a 180 was done right now, if everything were to be undone, we're still going to get hit. It's still going to be everything's shaken. At least 6 months of instability. With that being said, that might be a phenomenal opportunity for crypto. Crypto might be the safe haven. And I've said this many times, again, years ago, when I was explaining, everybody's like, how's, Bitcoin going to go to 400K? And I said, I don't really know. We don't know what the event will be, but fundamentally what will happen is people will lose confidence in their traditional financial systems, and they'll migrate everything into crypto as a safe haven. And that was the situation that I remember describing many times over for years now. And it feels like that, event, that calamity is going to happen to our traditional financial systems. And so that may be what sets off, crypto and throws its value skyrocketing. One of the things that I've always championed crypto about is, we look at other governments and other places in the world where their financial systems have collapsed. Venezuela is a really good example. And historically, when this has happened, if we look, pre-World War II, we look at Germany when they printed their Deutschmarks into oblivion and made everything worthless, which collapsed their economy. People starved. There was violence. People died. Like it was horrible. And we look at modern day times, these financial collapses happen again, and crypto has become some sort of, secondary buffer to prevent this calamity. Now, people still do suffer. Children still die, people still starve, things like that, but not on the scale that we've seen historically. People will go to this secondary level, this layer 2 level financial system, crypto, which is, beyond any government's control, and they continue to survive and even thrive. And Venezuela is one of the prime examples that I like to give of that. If we look historically before crypto, if the collapse of Venezuela's financial system happened, we would see much more terrible things happening in that country than what we're seeing now. As a matter of fact, life is relatively normal. Obviously some people are suffering and some people are damaged by the financial collapse. But the people that have migrated over to crypto, they're continuing their lives on as normal. Like, I can go on the streets and I can buy a hamburger and I can do this, and all I have to do is just use my phone and send the crypto to them. And that has been one of the most transformative things. Everybody says Bitcoin is the new gold, and they're trying to mix and match traditional finances into crypto. But the truth of the matter is crypto is a new asset class. And it is an asset class that is no longer governed by human beings. It is governed by math. And it is governed by basic fundamental economics of supply and demand. And by doing this, it has saved many human beings from the suffering, from the poor decisions and the tyranny that man has inflicted through their bad choices, through their policies, through their economics, through whatever, right? It has taken all of that out of the equation, and it has made something that is independent of all that, that cannot be controlled, that is fair and equitable for everyone who uses it. And that's the first time in the history of mankind that we've ever had anything like that. And that is the true power of crypto. I mean, it's not going to the moon, it's not getting rich quick, it's that we now have a financial system, a layer 2 financial system that we can fall back on, that we can depend on in the event that our traditional financial systems, which are managed by human beings, become corrupted, become weakened, or become destroyed by bad choices that human beings make. And that's always amazed me. You know, that's always fascinated me. And where it will lead us in the future, I don't know. I do know this, and I think we can all agree that Bitcoin it may be a store of value, but it is not a good transactional currency. And I've touched base on this in other AMAs that, you know, if you want to buy something, if you want to buy a loaf of bread, nobody has 10 minutes to sit around and wait for the confirmation to happen on the blockchain. In some cases, you know, depending on the network and any other crazy shenanigans it might be longer. You know, it might be an hour, it might be 2 hours. Nobody's got time for that. So it doesn't make Bitcoin a transactional currency. But we've got a lot of currencies that are on the horizon now. And I think I don't want to say big finance, but I think the bright minds that be have understood this fact is that Bitcoin is not a transactional currency, and there needs to be a transactional currency for crypto to truly become mainstream. And there's a lot of contenders on the horizon. A lot of interesting contenders on the horizon. It'll be interesting to see how they all play out. I have been an Algorand fan since the first time I used it. Was it about 3 or 4 years ago when Skeep told me about it? And it's great. It ticks all the boxes for me. There's another currency I can't remember off the top of my head, but its claim to fame is that it can receive any crypto and then settle it into fiat for any bank around the world, like instantly. And honestly, I think Algorand can implement that same ability, so I don't really see this other currency really being too innovative. The biggest advantage that I really see Algorand having, besides it being very transactional friendly, like transactions are settled instantaneously, is that it is hardened to quantum computers. And I know for a fact that when quantum computers grow powerful enough, pretty much every encryption, every security method that we use today will be null and void. It'll be useless. And we'll see Bitcoin blocks get settled in seconds. And I'm friends with some of the Bitcoin developers. We've talked about this topic, and I don't really think they have a viable solution in place. Now, that's not to say that they won't when the time comes, but one of the things that I like about Algorand is that it's already like 90% there. It's already 90% hardened against quantum computers, which I think is going to be basically our entire financial system is going to have a huge upheaval when it has to get rid of its current security practices, its current encryption practices. It kind of harkens me back to Y2K. Vlad, were you around when Y2K was with us, when Y2K was a thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you remember kind of the doom and gloom that all the news was saying? Like, airports were going to crash planes and the power companies were going to shut off, and it was awful. However, I see this as a real, scenario where it could totally shut down the infrastructure of the world because, whereas, Y2K bug, and just let me explain to you guys that, you younglings that were never around for that is, fundamentally what Y2K was about was, it was about programmatically how we entered in a year into computer systems. And what had happened is the first computer programmers out there, I don't want to say that they were lazy, but they just didn't anticipate the idea of 2 zeros being a year. And so, from the 1960s to the 1970s, if the year was 1978, you would just put 78, and for 79, and so on and so forth. And so the big fear is that, all these computer systems that only recognize dates as 2 digits, when it got to 00, it would basically crash the system. Fortunately, it was a small error and programmatically very easy to fix. You could just go in and, append, how many digits should be accepted for a year. And it wasn't really, I think, the problem that it was reported to be by the news. The news was just telling all this doom and gloom. And, honestly, from a computer programmer perspective, it was a 5-minute fix. You could just go in, rewrite the base code, put in that little exception, you were done, resave it, and it wasn't a big deal. But losing encryption for everything, our banks, our governments, our military, like all of that, now that is a big thing. When we no longer have the ability to have secure communications between vital infrastructures, that could be very, very deadly, very dangerous. The good news is about quantum computers is that currently it's very difficult to make qubits in large quantities. Now, we're breaking records every day, but the expense to make a large enough number of qubits to crack SHA-256 or SHA-516, that is prohibitive. And that is, the technology and the expense. Well, I'm going to say more of the expense because we pretty much have the technology going in the right directions now, but the expense is prohibitive. So it's not like we're going to wake up one day and everybody has a quantum computer and everything can be cracked. But we do have to consider that at least on a national level, if we look at large governments, we look at Russia, we look at China, we look at governments in Europe, we look at even North America, it's going to be pretty much a given that in the next 10 to 15 years, there's going to be a computer working for each one of those governments that will basically be able to see into anything that they want to see into. So I guess for the US, it would be the NSA. Here's another thing. If you guys don't know, the NSA has been recording every single packet of information that has traveled across the internet, whether it's encrypted or unencrypted, and it's been stored in this huge storage facility since like 2000. So, and they were doing it on the premise that, they can't crack the encryption today, but someday in the future, they'll be able to crack the encryption. So they're literally archiving everything. And I mean everything. Do you think your country's safe? It's not. Everything that you've done, every email, every conversation, everything that you sent via encrypted, they've got it stored, they've got it archived, and they will go back in time once they have the quantum computer to crack the encryption and be able to see all of it. Now, obviously, that's too much for human beings to handle. And so most likely they're going to build some sort of artificial intelligence that's going to go back through all this data and then, be able to give them summaries or anything. So, they could go and say, your children, for example, Vlads, they could say, tell me about their father, and the AI will be able to go back and look at every single thing that you've done, every interaction that you've had online, decrypt it all, and then give a synopsis about, he's a good man, he's loyal, he's trustworthy, he's always honest. Or they could say, he's possibly this or possibly that. It'll be able to see everything. And that's one of the reasons why, folks, that I started, well, I mean, AI's stitched it together already, but I started, like removing myself from social media. I don't really post on things. I don't really post on social media. I'm trying to keep my digital footprint as small as possible. Now, obviously, that doesn't help with me doing these AMAs and things like that, because I'm putting myself completely out there. But let's see here. It seems like my sister Tammy is trying to get in the call, but yeah, there's really nothing that we can do about it. Even the encryption that we have today, it's simply an illusion, because sometime in the future it's going to be decrypted. It's already being archived, and there's really nothing that we can do about it. The only way, that's the thing. You might be using Tor browser or Onion, layers and things like that, and that protects you for today, right? But it's all being stored, it's all being archived, and eventually, when they have the quantum computer to crack it, they will crack it, and they will be able to see everything you've done. Now, that may or may not matter to you. It depends on what you were doing on the dark web. Right? But I'm aware of this, and this is something that sticks out, kind of constantly in my mind. And so I'm very careful to curate, not out of posterity or embarrassment or something like that. I mean, my grandkids, they're going to know that their grandpa watched porno or whatever. I don't even think it would matter to them at that time. But you've just got to understand that anything that has your identity even remotely associated with it, it's all going to be reverse engineered eventually. And human eyes may not see it, but definitely artificial intelligence will know and will see everything that you've done, because it's all being archived. And again, there's pretty much nothing that we can do about it. The only thing that gives us privacy at this point in time is the encryption. And when the quantum computers become cheaper and bigger, it's going to be lost. And then we're going to have to reinvent how we interact with technology. And we're going to have to use hardened quantum technologies to continue in the future if we want to maintain privacy. And again, that's circling back to the Algorand. That's one of the things that I like about them, is it's something that I'm acutely aware of as a technologist, that I've been aware of for many, many years, and I've actually changed my life habits because of my awareness of it. And it's one of those things that, it always impresses me when I see a group and an organization that's already thinking ahead like that, that's also aware of those same things. So, I hope everybody is doing good. I'm not going to make this a terribly long AMA, because there's really no new information to share. I will say this, I understand and I appreciate your frustration. My life seems like it's always throwing me lemons, but one of the things that I've become good at, because my life is always throwing me lemons, is making lemonade. And for those of you that feel like Monopoly has become just a bunch of lemons, I'd like for you guys to take a step back, put your thinking caps on, and find a way to make lemonade, because that's the only way you're going to be happy in this life. You're not going to be happy just sitting in a corner complaining. You got to get up, and you got to grind, and you got to put in the effort and find a way. Find a way to change, find a way to adapt, find a way to adjust. Whether it may be just your internal, compass saying, okay, I'm now okay with just waiting it out, waiting till the top of the bull run and selling and getting my money back that way. But you guys really have to be more productive in what you want out of this project. And I would want nothing more than Monopoly to keep working, to keep you guys, making money. I make money too when you make money. I mean, you guys forget, like, I haven't made anything from Monopoly since we shut down, since we turned off. So that's a loss of revenue for me. Now, it's maybe not as a big of a hit as like some other things if they were to shut down, but it's still a hit. And, I have brought on the people. I've brought my sister in. I brought in Ahmad. They have gone literally knocking on doors, making friends, finding the power. We found the power. We found power, several sites, at least 5 sites that have the perfect amount of power for Monopoly. What are we lacking? We're lacking the funds to build the infrastructure. So we can get upset about it, we can cry about it, or we can put our heads together and we can find a way to get what you want. And again, what you want might be just simple as just waiting it out. In any of those cases, I'm here. I haven't left you. I haven't abandoned you. Now, I have stepped out of talking in Discord and communicating in Discord frequently because I passed that duty off to my sister. Apparently, she's not doing a good enough job for you guys, and I will give your feedback and your criticisms to her. I'll talk to her about how she can respond to things in a way that you guys feel is more in tune with what you want to know or what you would like to hear. But if you ever have any questions or if you ever have any doubts, I'm here at the AMA. Just come here, just show up on Friday, 8 o'clock, first Friday of the month, and I will be happy to address you directly. Now, I wish I could, give 24/7 of my time to every one of my projects, but that's not possible for me. I'm just one person. I'm one human being, and I only have 24 hours in a day. This is one of my favorite bosses. He said that. He said, the difference between you and the richest man in the world, there is no difference. You both have 24 hours in a day. It's what you do with that time that makes the difference between your life results, right? And you guys don't see me sitting around saying, oh, woe is me, everything's, Saqib left, I'm going to, throw in the towel, I'm done. Oh, the power company, they stopped doing power upgrades, I'm going to give up. The agriculture department, they want to ban or outlaw mining on agricultural lands. You haven't seen, I'm a fighter. I don't give up to these things. I wake up for breakfast with some sort of new challenge or new change. I live for it. That's what makes me who I am, is that, from the day I was born, and if you guys knew anything about me, maybe if you become close friends with my sister, you can kind of get the backstory. But you'll know I've had no advantage in life at all. From the day I was born, I've had 0 advantages in life. Everything has always been a struggle. You guys all might be surprised to know the last grade I passed in school was the 8th grade. That's right. I didn't even graduate high school. Right? Never had a senior prom. I never did any of those things. Sure, I went and I got my graduation equivalency diploma and I attended some university, but school wasn't my thing, guys. It just wasn't my thing. Scholastics was not my thing, right? And the last thing I thought I would ever enjoy doing or be good at in life was being a teacher. Somebody who hates school, who would want to go back to school? Not me. But you know what? Life threw me lemons. All right? My first wife was refused a green card, and she was kicked out of the United States, and I had to move to Japan, where I couldn't speak Japanese. I didn't have any kind of education, and the only job I could get was what? Teaching English. Right? Those are some lemons that life threw at me. But did I complain? Did I moan? Did I say, it's not fair? Life promised me this, but this is what I got? No. I buckled down and I did the best that I could do. I showed up every day for work as an English teacher and I poured my heart into it because whether I love it or I hate it, I'm always going to do my best. And you know what? I changed people's lives and I got to see how I changed their lives. And that changed something in me. I began to love teaching. I began to enjoy seeing the difference that I was making in people's lives. Because that's what you guys got to do. When things change, and there are many things in our life that are beyond our control, we have to learn to adapt. We have to learn to change with them. And Minopoly is no different than anything else that has happened in life, in my life, in your life. Look back. Nothing, you're not the same human being you were the day you were born. No, you can walk and you can talk. If you're lucky, you can play sports. Right? You're a completely different person. You've changed through every single day that you've been alive. And nothing different has happened here. Minopoly has also changed. And we've got to figure out what is the best change, not just for me, but for the community Minopoly moving forward. And that is not on my shoulders to figure out. That is something I challenge you as a community to put your heads together and to figure it out. And I will be here to facilitate you in every way that I can. And just like Vlad said, he said, I'm willing to just wait it out and sell the machines. That's one option. And if that's what the majority wants, then we've got to respect that. Let's be supportive of that. Let's maybe even talk about how we can strategize and how we can maximize that, right? Because that's what I'm thinking right now. That's why I've bought all new fans for the machines. That's why I bought all new grills for the machines, and I've gotten them all serviced and ready to go in top form. All right? But again, guys, sitting around and just complaining that things didn't go your way, that's not going to make things better. If you want to make things better, you've got to put in the effort to change and to mold things into what you want it to be. And I'd love to hear your ideas. I'd love to hear your thoughts, right? If it's just as simple as I want everything plugged in back again, I think that might be kind of a tall order. Yes, Vlad.
Yeah, I guess this is one of the key challenges, right? That we are a community, but we have not managed to meet up. Online is okay, but we have not managed to meet up, most of us at the same time. And then how can we agree? I mean, yeah, sure, everybody can write a bit in the chat, but it's really not the same as discussing. And
Absolutely.
and I guess that would be my take, that we can have some pre-discussions in the chat, but we should probably arrange a time where, let's say, 80% of people can attend and agree to what do we do. And we make a plan, and at some point we adjust because, as you say, Trump came in and that changed things. Okay, that's fine, but then you adjust.
Yeah.
It's not really
Exactly.
difficult, and
yeah.
and we might end up getting only 80% return at the end if we are unlucky. But yeah, that's also investing, right? So
I don't see it that way. I mean, unless everybody's liquidated now. Hopefully you've been holding on to your Bitcoin. I think realistically, I know we made some projections that you could make, 400% plus. I think realistically now, I think it's more like 200%. I think we'll have done good if everybody has doubled their money. I don't know. See, that's the thing. There's so many things that are beyond our control, with what's going on with crypto, with what's going on with the geopolitical situation. I mean, obviously, mining, I would love to have a situation where you guys are mining again, because that behooves me. I get 10%. I'm not going to lie. It's just simple economics for me that it makes... This project makes nothing for me sitting in a warehouse. And right now it's an expense because I have to pay for the warehouse. And I have to pay for the gas and the time and the energy to move things to the repair centers. But I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that at this point in time, Monopoly is more of an expense. It's more of a liability than it is an asset. And so it would behoove me, and I think it would behoove others, if we could figure out a way to make it more of an asset, at the very least for me, because I'm really taking a hit on this. You guys aren't paying a rent every month. You're not paying for electricity every month. You're not paying these expenses every month. I have to pay them. And there's expenses related to and incurred by Monopoly. Again, I'm not complaining, but I'm in a situation where I'm actually losing value every month. You guys are in a situation you're holding, and you're going to gain value when we sell the machines. But I mean, obviously, if Bitcoin tanks, then we're all losing value. But I'm still being, everything's being chipped away month by month by month. And as far as I know, none of you guys are going through any of that. So if we can find a way to revitalize the project and get it into a place where it is an asset, then that would be ideal for me. But again, I'm here to respect, whatever you guys want to do. If I've got to ride this out until you guys are ready to sell, then I'll ride it out. You don't hear me complaining. I'm not telling everybody, hey, why aren't any of you guys helping me out with the warehouse rent this month? Or why aren't you guys paying for the gas for the transportation back and forth to the repair centers? Why haven't you guys paid for any of the fans that I had to replace on the machines? I'm not doing any of that to you guys, right? Or the hash boards that I had to repair, or the control boards that I had to replace. Lots of things, right? I'm eating all of that. And I'm doing it with a smile. Why? Because I'm doing what I love, which is mining, right? This is my passion. This is my love in life. And the day that I wake up and I start complaining about every aspect of my industry, the good and the bad, is the day that I need to throw in the towel and just walk away. But I take the good with the bad, and I take the bad with the good, because that's life, and that's the way it's always been for me from the day I was born. So I'm sorry if some of you have not experienced that or don't know how to adjust to that, but trust me, life is so much better when you do adjust to it and you do get used to it. And I'm not here to, criticize anybody or anything like that. I'm here to facilitate you guys as a community, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you've said. You guys rally each other as a community and put your heads together. Let's come up with some sort of consensus moving forward. Like I said, the challenges and the hurdles, they're always going to be ahead of us. Found the power, we get the money for the infrastructure, there's going to be more challenges, there's going to be more hurdles ahead. I can't predict with absolute certainty what those are going to be, but I just know that's life. That's how it always is. And so we've got to be ready and flexible and open and accepting of what those challenges are and work together to overcome them. That's the solution.
And I hope, honestly, Ethan, that you really know how much it means for everybody in the community that you're doing this, because at the end, it's bringing us an opportunity that we never would have faced, right? And you can talk about all the other projects that gone awry, but actually, you are continuing to deliver, and this is truly appreciated by. I know me, but from many other members, and I hope everybody is really sending your thoughts on that, because it is really amazing what you are doing and offering for everybody, even though with the bad luck. And yeah, that's what it is.
I really appreciate that. I'm a huge proponent that thoughts are things, right? And if we think positively and we feel gratefulness and we feel gratitude in ourselves, then that attracts good things, right? And if we think negatively and we lose our gratitude and we start to fill our head with worry, fears, and doubts, that'll attract those things to our life as well. And yeah, I think that's a really important thing for everyone in the community to do, is maybe turn the frown upside down and think of positive things, attract the positive things to the project, because negativity is not going to benefit anybody, including the person giving it out or putting it out. And I understand it, you know. People say their thoughts and their feelings because they care, and that's a good thing, right? I'm glad that we have people in this project that really care. I'd ask them to maybe direct their energy into more positive vectors, into more positive channels. But the simple fact that they care in the first place is very important to me, and it matters to me, and they matter to me. Just life experience has taught me that you can care in a productive way, a constructive way, a way that builds, but you can also care in a destructive way, in a disruptive way. I was just, as a matter of fact, that reminds me of, you know, I was just talking to my ex-girlfriend, and I was talking to her about how she was channeling her caring energy, and that there were constructive ways and there were destructive ways. And I was explaining to her the destructive ways that she was channeling her energy. And I was encouraging her to channel more constructive ways, more positive ways to do that. And I challenge people in the community, you know, try to do the same. It can really change your life. It can make it much better and improve things, because at the end of the day, you want to attract the positive things towards you. And I'm a huge believer in that. And I'd love to go into a lot of detail about, you know, how law of attraction works and things like that, but there's plenty of information on the internet for you guys to, you know, go out and do your own research. Didn't really do technical analysis today, but I will say just everybody put your seatbelts on and be prepared for a wild and bumpy ride. Not just North America. I mean, this is going to have global ramifications. It's already having global ramifications. I hope you guys have saved up some nest eggs, or, you know, are able to weather the storm. If any of you guys are having any issues or any trouble, I'm not promising that I'm going to support you financially or anything like that, but I do have a lot of experience with this adversity in life, especially these extremes. Please feel free to reach out to me personally, and I'll be happy to you know, do whatever I can to inspire you, or, you know, to help you strategically do things in a way that minimizes its impact on you. I just want everybody to know that. Vlad, thank you so much for joining this AMA. It's been kind of a lonely AMA for quite some time, and it's good to see you again, buddy. You know, it's been too long. And
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah, it was so great to meet you guys.
Yeah, when you came here, we
Back
had
then,
so much
and
fun, right?
yeah,
I wish you could
definitely.
come now, because I've got a dune buggy now. I could take you out in the desert, and we could jump over the sand. Oh, it's crazy. I took my sister out the other day, and we jumped the sand dune. I think we were like in the air for like 8 meters. Just it was like time stopped. It was really cool. But yeah, hope everybody's doing good, and I'm gonna end this AMA on a positive note, saying that you know, I want you guys as a community to come together, bring the positivity, bring the thinking caps of possible solutions. I've been transparent. We have the power. We just don't have the capital. Let's figure out what the next step is from there. Sounds good? All right.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you, Ethan.
All right. Thank you, guys.